Okay, we all remember when the president falsely claimed that millions of Americans voted illegally in the November election. There's this tweet that was sent less than 3 weeks after the election where he claimed he won the popular vote, but only if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally, millions. And in January, he said he was going to be asking for an investigation into voter fraud, and depending on the result, the administration would, quote, strengthen up voting procedures. Well, 7 weeks ago, the president signed an executive order creating the Presidential Commission on Election Integrity. Its aim was to investigate alleged voter fraud, and now that commission has sent this letter to all 50 states plus Washington, D.C., asking for their feedback on election integrity, and most importantly, on the second page of it, voter roll data. Several states have come out against the request for voter roll data, including Virginia, Rhode Island, California. California Secretary of State Alex Padilla joins me now. Alex, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Ali. Thanks for having us back.
We're going to talk about, I'm going to be talking in a couple minutes to Kris Kobach, the vice chair of the Election Integrity Commission, who signed this letter to you and all the other states. But I want to ask you first, why are you refusing to provide the voter roll data that he, as chair of this commission, is asking for?
Well, look, it's not just about this request of data and this first letter that the commission has issued before even meeting, by the way. So we're not sure if this is Kris Kobach or the commission as a whole, but you said it off the top. This is a follow-up to Donald Trump's baseless allegations of massive voter fraud across the country without a shred of evidence to support his claims. There is evidence to the contrary. Numerous studies, numerous investigations that show, look, there's voter fraud exists, yes, but it's extremely rare, always very isolated. But he can't accept that answer. So there's now a commission, and he puts in charge of the commission Secretary Kobach and others with long documented histories of discriminatory policies, voter suppression policies, anti-immigrant policies. It's a commission who's already reached their outcome and conclusions before the process has even begun.
So I will ask you this.
There are requests itself.
I've got the letter here. It's got 7 questions that it asks, separate from the voter roll data, and it does say, what changes, if any, would you recommend to enhance the integrity of federal elections? How can the commission support state and local elections? You know, what other issues do you believe the commission could consider? So it seems that he's asking for a lot of information to help improve the way you conduct votes.
Right, if only I thought it was actually genuine and sincere, because you can't ignore that data request. The data that's unprecedented, they're not just asking for the names of the voters in your particular state, but you said it off the top. Names, dates of birth, Social Security information, vote history, party registration. You know, states have limitations on who has access to that data for the purpose of protecting personal information for voters. And so there's no precedent here for the feds to collect this, number one. Number two, secretaries are rightly concerned about who's going to have access to the data, for what purpose, where they're going to store it and protect it. If you want to do Vladimir Putin a favor, put all this information, personal information, for every voter in America in one place online. Why don't go ahead and make it easy for them to compromise next year's elections? And if they're genuine about the first series of questions of how to improve things, go back to the 2014 the last Presidential Commission on Election Administration, bipartisan recommendations on how to strengthen the integrity of our elections, starting with investing in new technology and new voting systems. So between that and acknowledging the Russian intervention in last year's elections, that's where their commission ought to start.
Alex, good to talk to you again. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to continue this conversation in a moment with Kris Kobach. Alex Padilla is California's Secretary of State. Joining me now is the man who sent the letter asking for voter roll data, Kris Kobach. He is the vice chair of the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. He's also Kansas's Secretary of State, so I suppose Kansas is going to hand over the information. He passed the Secure and Fair Elections Act in 2011, where you must show documentary proof of citizenship when applying to vote. The American Civil Liberties Union has filed several suits because of the law. Kris, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Kris, you have said, I was talking about the tweet by President Trump, who said that he won the popular vote, which he didn't, when you take into account all the illegal, fraudulent votes. You seem to support that view. On what evidence?
Well, the president's statements in January and February, the commission isn't put in place to prove or disprove that. We may never know whether that's true or not. But the point of the commission is just to get information and present it to the public. And I want to respond to something that Secretary Padilla just said.
Sure.
He said that this is sensitive information. No, this is publicly available information. The commission is only requesting what any person on the street in California can walk into a county election office and get. So if Social Security number is not publicly available, and it is not publicly available in most states, then we aren't requesting it.
So why'd you ask for
it? It's just... Well, because if it is publicly available, then if the public can get it, then the commission would like it too. In most states, it's not. The reason you want to avoid false positives.
I hear you. What are you trying to get at? You're asking for people's names,
Sure.
initials, middle initials, date of birth, whatever. That's normal, right? Then you want political party.
Most states are going to give name, date of birth.
Right. Then you want political party. You want voter history. And information regarding felony convictions, and information regarding voter registration in another state, information regarding military status and overseas citizen information. What are you going to do with all that information?
Okay, well, let me give you an example. The Pew Charitable Foundation, their trust, one of their trusts, has estimated that 1.8 million deceased individuals are on the voter rolls in the country, and they think that their estimate is low. Well, we could actually find out what the real number is if we take the voter rolls of the states and we match them against the Social Security Administration's death list of people who have died. Let's find out what the real number is, and then if you have the voter history, you can say, okay, how many of these names appear to have voted after the date of death?
Right.
So let's just imagine the actual numbers.
That's interesting, except
that's very interesting, and why not find out?
Because you got this wrong. You actually went after a particular voter who you said was dead and voted in an election, and it turned out that the guy was very much alive, and I think a newspaper found him mowing his lawn.
Right. That case actually proves the point. That was back 6 or 7 years ago when I was running for the election. There's a guy's name in the Kansas voter rolls, and the Kansas voter rolls had a mistake listing his date of birth as 1901, but he was still voting in, I think, 2006 or something like that. So the problem was in the voter rolls. So there are lots of errors in every state's voter rolls. Let's find out how significant those errors are. Let's find out how many deceased people are on the rolls. Let's find out how many cases where a deceased individual's actually voted. And let's find out how many aliens are on the voter rolls. California has been accused by many people around the country of being very lax in allowing non-citizens to register. Well, we can find out. Maybe it'll turn out that there are very few. Maybe it'll turn out that there are a large number. But my question is, what's Secretary Padilla afraid of? Why not look at the data, it's publicly available data, and put the cards on the table and show the American public how significant the issue is? It's just fact-finding that he seems to be afraid of.
I have so much I want to discuss with you, and I really prepared this conversation well because you're a very good debater and a very smart guy. We have breaking news about a shooting in a hospital, so I'm going to have to ask you to end this conversation.